The Millionaire and the Homeless Black Man's Life-Changing Encounter. It was supposed to be a quiet evening in downtown, the city humming with its usual rhythm of luxury and struggle. Outside an opulent restaurant where champagne sparkled in crystal glasses and laughter echoed in polished halls, Heitor Damasceno sat alone. The construction tycoon, known for skyscrapers that kissed the clouds, now carried a heavier load, a hollow silence gnawing at his chest. His family gone, crushed in a crash that left him with nothing but memories and long nights. But then, something unusual cracked the night's perfect surface. A young woman appeared at the curb, clutching a fragile bundle wrapped in a thin, torn blanket. Her eyes darted around, wary yet desperate. Victoria, barely more than a shadow, stood trembling in the cold. Her skin marked by hardship. Deep lines traced her face. A mother with nowhere to go. Her baby, Leo, stirred weakly in her arms. Soft noises, barely audible over the "not a handout, just a small piece to fill an aching hunger." Heitor hesitated. That tight chest, the ache he thought was his alone, shifted. His voice barely above a whisper, he offered the food. The way her hands closed around the package was hesitant, delicate, like clutching a lifeline. But what stunned him more was what happened next. Their conversation began, halting, raw. Between bites and stolen glances, layers peeled away. Victoria's story of loss, abandonment, a childhood shattered, Heitor's grief, that suffocating loneliness after losing his family in a blink. Different worlds, yet a shared pain etched deep. Their voices lowered, breaths visible in the night air thick with city smells, spices from the kitchen, exhaust fumes, and a hint of rain. Suddenly, urgency pierced the moment. A sharp cry broke through, a shrill, terrified wail. Leo's tiny body convulsed, and panic flooded Victoria's face. Heitor didn't think. He scooped her and the baby into his car, racing against time. Hospital lights sliced the dark as they arrived, cold floors echoing Leo's fragile cries. The thin hospital curtain swayed, half concealing the dread painted on Victoria's face. Heitor's old hands trembled, clenching and unclenching as he watched her cradle the child. Two strangers, tied together by fate, caught in a moment too real to ignore. But just when hope glimmered, a new storm brewed. The next morning, flashbulbs exploded. The tabloids screamed wild headlines. The Millionaire and the Homeless Black Man, secret affair or disturbing scandal. Photos distorted, rumors twisted. Victoria's face, worn and scared, stared back from every screen. Judged, dissected. Whispers filled the streets. What's he doing with her? Is this some charity stunt, or worse? Victoria's eyes darkened, tight with fear. She whispered to Heitor about running, disappearing, anything to protect Leo from this nightmare. And Heitor, he stood in the center of a storm he didn't know how to stop. To fight back meant dragging their story into the harsh light, risking everything. Staying silent could destroy them all. His pulse pounded in his ears, his breath hitched. The cold night air outside felt like a trap closing in. Would he have the courage to speak the truth? Or would fear silence the bond born in darkness? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! Hator stood frozen, caught in an invisible web of fear and confusion. He could see the panic in Victoria's eyes, a storm reflecting his own thoughts about the tabloid chaos waiting outside. His chest tightened, the weight of the world leaving bruises in its wake. Maybe we should just leave, Hator whispered, almost to himself. The thin hospital air felt suffocating. He recalled how their chance meeting had spiraled into this whirlwind of horror. A calm night turned into flashing lights and trained eyes dissecting. But just then, before they could plot their escape, a loud crash disrupted the grim atmosphere. Every head in the emergency room turned. A gurney rolled in, nurses hurriedly pushing it down the narrow hallway. It was already too late to ignore. The frantic shouts filled the corridor. "Get the doctor! We need a code blue in here!" Hator's heart raced. He had been in that very position before, rushing someone to safety, feeling helpless in the face of uncertainty. The curtains parted, and there, amid the chaos, lay a familiar figure under a thin blanket. His breath caught in his throat. It couldn't be, but it was. Victoria gasped, horror washing over her as she recognized the woman on the gurney. Her mother. The memory of stories long buried returned with a jolt. Victoria's mother had been a fierce protector, yet her flaws, the addiction, the reckless decisions, had torn their family apart. Hator's mind raced. Wasn't she dead? Didn't Victoria say she left? But there she was, unconscious, yet alive, face pale and hollow, a mirror reflecting the shadows of their past pain. What? How is this possible? Victoria's voice trembled, strands of hope and fear weaving together. Hator squeezed her hand, a surge of emotion stirring within him. But speech faded into silence. Everyone around them seemed to dissolve, the insights of their shared loneliness eclipsed by this sudden turn. A doctor rushed past, barely glancing at them. "We need to stabilize her! Clear the way!" In that moment, everything shifted again. Victoria turned to Hator, urgency etched across her face. "You have to help me," she pleaded. "If she wakes up, if she sees me." Tears welled in her eyes, and Hator felt the pull of her despair. She had lost everything, but now hope flickered in the darkness. He could see the glimmers of a family reassembling, the possibility of fresh pain twisting into an unrecognizable shape. Could this be the chance for redemption? But how could he help? The world outside wouldn't change overnight. The tabloids didn't care about stories of love and hope. They spun their own narratives. As tension crackled in the air, the screen of his phone lit up, notifications buzzing, headlines screaming, "The Millionaire's daughter revealed." See, Hator's stomach dropped. A photo of Victoria next to a caption reading "The truth behind the scandal" made it clear their intimacy had become fodder for ugliness. Suddenly, the trauma sprawled in front of him shifted again. Hator's mind divided. torn between loyalty to Victoria and the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Would she even want to connect with a past she'd fought so hard to escape? Would rescuing her mother turn into a new nightmare? Tell me what to do. Victoria cried, voice raw with anguish. The past loomed larger than ever in that cold hospital room, threading despair so deep it was hard to breathe. But before he could answer, the sound of his name echoed from across the hall, familiar and laden with an authority that sent chills down his spine. He froze. Hator turned to see a man in a crisp suit striding towards him. A figure from Hator's own past. "Mr. Damasceno," the man called. "We need to talk now." His pulse quickened. Could this be the end of everything he tried to build? Or the shocking beginning of something entirely different? The weight of uncertainty crashed onto him like waves. The crumbling walls of his carefully crafted grief threatened to collapse, reassembling into a new shape he couldn't imagine. All he could think was, what had he gotten himself into? And who could he trust? Now more than ever, Hator stood frozen, caught in an invisible web of fear and confusion. The man in the sharp suit approached with an aura of authority that sent chills down his spine. It felt as if the ground beneath him was being pulled away. Victoria's wide eyes filled with panic, reflecting the storm brewing inside her. "Mr. Damasceno," the stranger called again, now standing just an arm's length away. "We need to talk now." Hator could barely respond. Who was this man? A vestige from his past? As the chaos of the hospital swirled around them, the man's face blurred with urgency. He needed answers. But how could he find them when his heart pounded like a drum in his ears, drowning out everything else? "Come with me," the man insisted, and Hator felt a swirling mix of dread and curiosity. A part of him knew he should refuse. He had things to protect. Victoria, Leo, the faint flicker of hope after their near massacre of a night. But before he could object, the man turned, his suit gliding smoothly as if the world around them was unfurling into a darker tunnel. "Wait!" Victoria called out, clutching Hator's arm as if he were her only anchor. "What do you want with him?" But the man didn't look back. Hator hesitated, torn between the buzzing questions in his mind and the shadow of fear casting over Victoria's face. Could he trust this stranger who spoke with urgency? There was no time to think. With a quick glance back at Victoria, he stepped towards the man, driven by the need for answers. They walked fast, the fluorescent lights flickering above as they moved deeper into a corridor that felt increasingly claustrophobic. Finally, they arrived at a small room away from The door clicked behind them, sealing off time and space. Hator's breath caught as he faced the man, who suddenly appeared less imposing, almost vulnerable. "You don't know the whole story," the man said, the words tumbling out like marbles scattering across a floor. "What do you mean?" Hator asked, confusion wrapping around him. The man took a deep breath. "Victoria, she isn't who you think she is." "What?" Hator felt the weight of disbelief settle hard in his gut. "What the hell are you talking about?" "She's not just a homeless mother," the man said, distress leaking through his steady facade. "Her mother, the one in the hospital, she's involved in something dangerous, a criminal syndicate, and Victoria is connected to it. No. Hater shook his head, each word a denial snapping back in anger. You're wrong. She's just a woman trying to keep her son safe. Think, the man urged, frustration cracking his calm. What do you think happens when someone from that life gets back in touch? It puts everyone at risk, including you. A flash of memories broke across Hater's mind. Her fear, her longing, the past she seemed desperate to flee. Could it be true? He felt confused, grappling with anger and fear. She's lost everything. She needs help, not suspicion. As the tension thickened, an alarm blared through the corridors, bright lights flashing red. The man's expression shifted. Alarm turned to panic. They're here! He shouted, rushing to the door. Paypor's heart dropped. Who's here? More than we can handle. We need to protect her. In that moment, the door swung open, and in rushed a group of hospital security. Apprehensive, eyes scanning furiously. We need you both out of here, the lead guard shouted. Hator's mind spun. Protect Victoria? But could he trust her? Was she innocent? Or a pawn in a larger game he'd stumbled into? The weight of her sudden mystery bore down on him like an iron chain. He reached for his phone, desperate to call Victoria, to grab a last thread of understanding. But his hands trembled uncontrollably. There were too many questions now, shadows swirling around them. The man shot a look over his shoulder, fear slicing through the air. We don't have time. Trust me. Trust? Hator was not sure of anything anymore, but with sirens wailing outside, something whispered deep within him. Maybe this was just the beginning of a much darker journey, spiraling into the unknown. With a deep breath, he concluded, the fear clawing at him. Let's go. Hator nodded, heart racing, and followed the man into the small room. The door closed, sealing them away from the hospital's chaos. As the alarm echoed in the distance, Hator felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. Trust me, the man urged again, his voice strained. But just as Hator was about to respond, the sound of the door slamming open sent them both jumping. In walked a tall figure, unmistakable. Richard? Hator blinked in disbelief. His old business partner was supposed to be on assignment overseas. What was he doing here? Anxiety thickened the air as Hator fought to process his presence among the swirling fear. Richard stepped in, a smug grin stretching across his face. You didn't think I'd let you spiral into trouble without me, did you? He looked between Hator and the stranger, laughter lighting his eyes. Looks like I missed quite a party. What are you talking about? Hator demanded, confusion tinged with anger. Richard approached, slowly, his expression shifting to something more serious. You'll understand soon, he said, then glanced at the man. You don't know the whole story either. Tell me, Hator insisted, feeling the walls close in. Richard's demeanor grew grave. It's about Victoria and the baby. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Hator, she's not just a mother in need. She's the key player in her mother's syndicate. A set of stolen jewels worth millions. The air tightened with disbelief. What? No, that can't be true. Hator shook his head, desperation creeping in. I wish it weren't, but it is, Richard said with a simmering urgency. Her mother was caught up in it, and now that she's back, it's only a matter of time before they come for her and Leo, unless we act fast. No, this isn't real, Hader whispered, fingers trembling. But as doubt swirled, vividly buried memories of Victoria's despair and pain roused questions he didn't want to face. Richard continued, "They'll use her to find the jewels if we don't get to her first." Suddenly, the ground seemed to shake. A deafening crash came from down the hall. It sent chills up Hader's spine. The alarms blared louder, voices shouting. The door burst open again, but this time, a group of hooded figures stormed in, dark and intimidating. One of them stepped forward, face hidden beneath shadows. "Where is she?" he hissed, eyes scanning the room, locking in on Hator. Who are you?" Hator stuttered, fear wrapping around his throat. "Enough games," the figure insisted. "Victoria is in danger. We have to bring her back now. You don't want to know what happens if we don't." The world tilted beneath Hator's feet. What was happening? Panic flooded his veins. He turned to Richard, who seemed unfazed, almost smug. "I told you," Richard whispered, a corner of his mouth twisting into an unsettling smirk. "You thought this was about charity? This is much larger." "Larger?" Hator's breath hitched. The shadows of betrayal began to take form. The menacing figure took a step forward, hand reaching inside his jacket. "If you won't bring her to us willingly, we'll take her by force." Hator's world disintegrated. Victoria. Leo. His entire perception shattered in that instant. Loyalty and compassion twisted with unease and dread. The once kind stranger now loomed as a dangerous enigma. Would he be able to protect them? Or was he already too late? Hator's heart hammered in his chest, pooling despair coursing through his body. The cold reality hit him. He was in too deep, caught in a whirlwind of corruption and lies. And just as the figure took another threatening step closer, Hator recognized something familiar in the man's eyes. Something too close to the truth. Everything, he realized, was about to change forever. Hator's heart raced painfully as the hooded figure advanced, the air sharp with tension. Richard stood resolute beside him, the half-smirk fading into seriousness. The man's voice had a frantic edge, as if every second mattered. "Where is she?" the figure growled, eyes scanning for signs of Victoria. Hator's grip tightened, the chill of occupation staking claim to his resolve. "Don't touch her!" His voice shook, raw anger clutching his throat. "We're not here to hurt her," the figure hissed, the shadows falling deep across his face. "But once we find her, we can't guarantee any more safety." Hator felt Richard's shoulder brush against his. A knowing look passed between them. For a moment, the chaos outside faded as they locked eyes. Then it happened. A deafening bang echoed through the hallway. Doors flew open, and a new wave of chaos crashed in. Nurses scattered, shouting for security. But amid the noise, a familiar voice yelled over the chaos, slicing straight through the tension. "Stop! You're making a mistake." Hader turned, disbelief flooding him like cold water. It was Victoria, standing there, fear radiating off her slight frame, holding Leo close. But there was something different about her eyes. A confidence that shattered the vulnerable facade. "Victoria, no!" Hader shouted, but she stepped further into the room, her face illuminated by the harsh fluorescent lights. "They can't take him," she declared, voice strong. "You don't understand." The hooded figure spun to face her, surprise washing over his features. "What are you doing here? You need to leave." "Now, I'm not going anywhere," she fought back, clutching Leo tightly. "I'm done running. I need you to know the truth." Everyone held their breath. The moment felt impossibly heavy, the air thick with fear and uncertainty. Then the shocking twist hit like a punch to the gut. Victoria's eyes flickered, and in a swift move, she unwrapped the blanket around Leo, revealing something, a small device strapped to his tiny arm. What is that?" Hightor gasped, his heart sinking into a deep pit of confusion. "Tracker," Victoria whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of revelation. "They've been watching us. Watching me since before he was born. I couldn't let them find us." The room froze, the figures around them, the hectic pace of the hospital. Even the alarm sounded distant and muted against the shocking reality. In that instant, every piece of information began to reassemble in Hator's mind. "Why didn't you tell me?" His heart ached with betrayal. The warm thread of their connection fraying into something jagged. "What's really going on? I thought I could protect you, protect us," she cried, tears glistening in her eyes. "My mother's syndicate? They've been hunting me for years. They are after Leo for something I stole." The hooded figure's anger simmered beneath his calm exterior. "You were supposed to leave that life behind, Victoria. You don't get to play the victim anymore." "But I'm not the one pulling the strings," she screamed back, raw desperation in her voice. "They don't want a mother. They want the jewels, the bloodline, the legacy." The implications hung heavily in the air, each word tethering Hator to anger, confusion, and a deep concern that twisted in his gut. The truth cracked open a fissure that threatened to widen, revealing jagged edges of the lives they'd lived. Suddenly, the ominous figure reached out, advancing toward her. "If you don't come with us now, you put him in danger. We won't let you drag this out further." Hator felt a spark of resolve. "No, I won't let you take her." But just then, a loud crash echoed from the corridor, sending shards of panic through the onlookers. Amid the chaos, a second figure emerged behind the shadows, a massive silhouette, stomping forward, commanding everyone's attention. This time, it was someone neither of them expected, a man Hator knew all too well. A dark figure from his past, long thought, buried, walked out with a chilling smile. "Hello, old friend." The air felt electric, taut with shock. The room spun with uncertainty. Each heart raced, picking up speed as every person reeled under the weight of this new revelation. The connection between these characters, what was at stake, and who could really be trusted, enveloped Hator's mind in a cyclone of confusion. This was no longer about mere survival. It was a game of shadows, betrayal, and a price paid in blood. And suddenly, the lines that defined friendship, trust, and love blurred into something more sinister. What was real? What was loyalty? And who was truly protecting whom? The storm had just begun. Hator's heart raced painfully as the looming figure stepped closer, Richard's presence like a shadow at his side. The air crackled with tension, uncertainty hanging like a suffocating fog. Victoria stood firm, clutching Leo protectively, her eyes blazing with defiance. "Step back," the hooded figure commanded, voice sharp enough to cut through the anxiety-filled room. "Don't you dare touch him!" Hator shouted, his voice trembling with fury and fear. "Enough!" Victoria's voice sliced through the chaos. "I won't let you take him!" For a brief moment, the world halted. The truth hung heavy in the air, secrets darkening the space between them. Then, just as the tension reached its breaking point, a deafening crash erupted from the corridor. Hator's heart plummeted as chaos flooded the entrance. Nurses screamed. Security surged forward, trying to control the situation. And amid it all, another figure appeared. A man, clad in a dark jacket, pushed his way through the frantic crowd. He had an air of authority that turned heads, eyes widening in recognition. "Max!" Richard whispered, voice barely audible. Hator's stomach twisted. Max was a name he had not heard in years, a shadow from a life buried in dirt and lies. Yet the threat now felt all too real. Everyone knew Max, the enforcer who got things done, often with violence. "What's he doing here?" Hator thought, dread seeping into his bones. "Get her!" Max barked, eyes darting towards Victoria, eyes burning with intent. Time slowed. Hator glanced at Victoria, her face a mix of terror and resolve. A flash of movement caught his eye. The hooded figure lunged forward as if to shield her. But the chaos exploded with sudden violence. Two security guards rushed toward Max, trying to restrain him. Their bodies collided, a symphony of shouting and crashing, echoing throughout the hospital. In the chaos, Hator felt the ground shift beneath him. "Victoria!" he yelled, desperate to protect her. But before he could react, in a swift motion, the hooded figure turned, revealing a glint of metal. A knife. His mind raced, adrenaline surging as horror painted his vision red. "No!" Hator's mind screamed as he rushed forward. But time stretched, each second a cruel taunt. He felt the weight of helplessness pressing against his chest. The moment hung like a fragile thread. And then it happened. A flash of steel sliced through the air. The world lurched as everything changed in a heartbeat. A loud roar erupted from the entrance. Max charged against the security team. A predator locked on his target. Unstable moments collided together as their battle waged on. But nothing mattered more than the glimmering knife, poised dangerously close to Victoria. With one sharp movement, an explosion rocked the room, sending everyone sprawling. The force blasted Hator backward, slamming against the wall, the air knocked from his lungs. Shouts morphed into screams, the hospital spiraling into chaos. But in the disarray, time froze again. Hator's eyes fixed on a figure that had flickered in the shadows. Another person, another face from the past. Sophie, his former assistant. Her expression was unreadable, but a darkness swirled behind her eyes. He hadn't seen her in years. She wasn't supposed to be here. Suddenly, as if awakening from a dream, she stepped into the light, a chilling smile creeping across her face. "You thought you were rid of this life?" she taunted. "You're deeper in than ever!" Shock coursed through Hator, panic clawing at him. "Where is Leo?" she demanded, eyes narrowing on the scene chaos. "Get away from him!" Victoria screamed, but dread slipped through Hator's fingers. As the scene unfolded, he felt an unsettling familiarity about the danger. The pieces of the puzzle shifted in his mind, each revelation more terrifying than the last. "Enough playing!" Sophie snapped, voice dripping with menace. "We all know what's really at stake." The air turned heavy with silence. Just like that, the unthinkable truth hung below the surface. Betrayal ran deeper than just between friends. Hator felt the walls of reality crumble. He couldn't trust anyone, not Richard, not the hooded figure, not even Victoria, who now seemed bound by chains of a past he couldn't fully grasp. Chaos erupted again, but his focus narrowed on Sophie's piercing gaze, a new danger lurking. And then a gunshot rang out, echoing through the chaos, shaking the foundation of everything they believed. Who had been shot? Would they survive? Hator's heart raced as he realized he stood at the edge of a spiral into madness. Every choice now a gamble against the chaos that threatened to consume them all. The gunshot rang out, a deafening blast that threw everyone into chaos. Hator flinched, his heart racing. The tension that had filled the room shattered like glass. Time itself seemed to stop as he instinctively shielded Victoria and Leo, fear gripping him. The figure in the hood, previously threatening, recoiled as adrenaline surged through everyone in the room. "Get down!" someone shouted, and bodies dropped to the floor, instinctively protecting themselves from unseen dangers. But nothing could prepare them for what came next. A figure staggered into view, clutching at his shoulder. The pain was visible, raw, a crimson stain spreading through the fabric of his shirt. It was Max. Hator's breath caught in his throat. "Max!" Richard yelled, his voice cutting through the noise. Max collapsed, hitting the ground hard. The weight of shock fell heavily on Hator as he processed the scene unfolding before him. Blood pooled on the floor, soaking through the tiles. The room felt colder, despair creeping in like an unwelcome shadow. "We've got to go!" the hooded figure shouted, panic sinking in. "Now!" "No!" Hator instinctively stepped forward, but Victoria reached out, her grip hard on his arm. "Please," she begged, eyes wide and terrified. "He's hurt." At that moment, a wave of noise erupted from outside. Siren blaring, footsteps thudding against the linoleum. The hospital's emergency response team lit up the shadows with their flashlights, rushing toward Max. But that's when everything flicked upside down. As the medics arrived, one of the paramedics pulled off a mask, revealing a face that caused Hator's heart to stutter mid-beat. It was Sophie. The very woman who claimed to be an ally now stood among them, her demeanor unnervingly calm. "Good to see you, Hator," she said, a smile twisting across her lips. "You fell right into my plan, didn't you?" Her voice dripped with an unsettling familiarity, the confidence radiating through the madness. "What are you talking about?" Hator blinked hard, disbelief coursing through him. Max groaned, and the medics rushed to his side, desperately trying to stabilize him. But Sophie waved them away. "No need. We won't be needing your services." "What?" Victoria's voice trembled as she clutched Leo tighter. Sophie stepped forward, brushing aside the chaos as if it were mere background noise. "You see, my dear friends, Max was always a liability. He thought he could play both sides, but I orchestrated this whole situation. It's just business for me." Hator shook his head, confusion crashing down like waves. "You're lying!" "No, I'm not." Her eyes sparkled with a cruel pleasure. "Max was just a pawn. And you You're just another piece I've manipulated. A construction tycoon trying to save a homeless woman? It's almost too easy. The world turned upside down. Everything Heitor thought he knew burnt to ashes. Richard's expression hardened, a mix of betrayal and disbelief. Sophie, this isn't what we agreed on. Agreed? She laughed, the sound grating in the tension-filled air. These people are nothing to us. My real prize is... But she was cut off by a resurging figure within the shadows. It was Victoria, suddenly fierce and determined. I won't let you take my son away from me. Not to you or anyone. You really don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Sophie replied, her tone cold. With Leo in her arms, Victoria seemed to find strength in desperation. I'll do whatever it takes to protect him. The room stood still as tension hung thick in the air. Heitor felt his heart race. Love and fear for Victoria pushed him to act. He took a step forward, ready to confront Sophie. But he couldn't look away from Max, lying wounded, truth swirling around him like a tempest. Suddenly, the finality of the moment washed over Heitor, every breath heavy with consequence. A new sense of urgency ignited within him. As Sophie's intentions twisted brutally, he realized one thing. This wasn't just about loyalty or friendship anymore. It was a fight for survival. The real game had only just begun. And outside, the sirens wailed on, drowning out their thoughts, echoing a chaos that demanded clarity. Heitor's chest tightened as he stared at Sophie, the reality of her betrayal crashing over him like a wave. She had woven herself into their lives, and now it felt like everything was unraveling. The chaos around them seemed distant, but his heart pounded in time with the sirens outside. Do you really think you can save her? Sophie scoffed, the corner of her mouth curling in a mocking smile. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Victoria's gaze flickered between Heitor and Sophie, confusion darting across her face. What do you mean? She asked, her voice shaky. Just the little game I'm playing, Sophie said, her tone casual, but with a deadly edge. After all this time, you both thought you were heroes, didn't you? It's adorable. Heitor clenched his fists, fury rising like bile in his throat. This isn't some game. You're right. It's a war. Sophie's eyes gleamed, a predatory smile spreading. And you're both just pawns. Before he could respond, the hospital room shuddered again. Another explosion echoed in the distance, louder this time. Heitor's heart raced. The walls rattled, debris falling from above. People screamed. Chaos erupted, and the flickering lights went out, plunging them into darkness. Run! Someone yelled from the shadows. Heitor grabbed Victoria's arm, pulling her closer, adrenaline surging through his veins. They stumbled as the lights flickered back to life, revealing a horrifying scene. They were surrounded. In the corner stood a line of grim men, many more than he could count. Eyes glinting with a fierce hunger. Their faces were obscured beneath balaclavas, but their intentions were undeniably clear. The air thickened with menace. What the hell is going on? Richard shouted, his voice cracking as he stepped forward, uncharacteristic fear flashing across his face. They're here for Victoria, Sophie said, laughter spilling from her lips. Did you honestly think I would protect her? She's the leverage, the heart of this whole mess. No! Heitor roared, pushing Victoria behind him. I won't let them take her. Suddenly, a series of deafening cracks rang out, gunfire punctuating the air. Heiter flinched, instinctively shielding Victoria and Leo. The armed men lunged forward, their shouts drowning out the sounds of pandemonium, eyes wild with violence. They scattered in a chaotic frenzy. Bodies collided, people screaming, panic consuming the whole room. Heitor felt the pull of desperation. He needed to get Victoria and Leo to safety. But then, just as he focused on escaping, a figure emerged, breaking through the throng. The last person he expected to see. It was Leo's father. Heitor's heart dropped into the pit of his stomach. "What are you doing here?" The man's face was twisted in anger, but there was something else. A determination that sent a chill down Heitor's spine. "I knew they'd come after you. I'm not letting them take him away." Heitor's mind raced. What did that mean? Everything he thought he knew about Leo's father shifted. Was he a part of this? Was he here to save them or to claim what he believed was his? "No!" Victoria screamed, heartbreak etched into her features as she recognized him. "You can't! You don't understand what's at stake!" But it didn't matter. The men moved closer, the room thick with tension as nets of danger tightened around them. Lights flickered again, casting erratic shadows across the chaos, paranoia gripping every heart. In one swift movement, gunfire erupted again, deafening, echoing like the final warning bell. The unexpected and unwanted truth ignited between them. The father, Sophie, and the armed men. Were they all connected in this deadly game? What had Heitor stumbled into? And with a heart-stopping jolt, he realized there were no more safe choices left. With time slipping away, he needed to act. Desperation clawed at him. "We have to go, now!" But even as he shouted, everything changed once again. A new wave of shadows surged through the doorway, brandishing weapons and chaos. Suddenly, Heitor faced an impossible choice, the weight of countless secrets crashing down around him. What had he gotten himself into? And who could he truly trust in this spiraling nightmare? Heitor's heart raced as chaos erupted around him. Bodies surged, shadows darted, but his eyes fixated on the scene unfolding. Victoria clutched Leo tightly, confusion and terror dancing across her features, while the armed men closed in. "Get out of the way!" Richard shouted, shoving his way through the crowd. Heitor felt nauseous as time seemed to stretch, every heartbeat a drum echoing in his ears. Sophie stood like a specter, her eyes glinting with malicious glee, relishing the chaos unfurling in front of her. "Move!" Heitor yelled again as the armed men advanced, their intent clear. He had to protect Victoria, had to shield Leo from the horror threatening to consume them. But just then, a deafening crack resonated. You could almost feel the air shift. A bullet whizzed past, striking the wall behind them. Panic surged like a tidal wave, uprooting the floor beneath him. Time slowed as he glanced back at Victoria. He saw a flicker of determination in her eyes, but fear gripped his heart. Before he could shout a warning, Max stood up, blood dripping from his shoulder. Heimer felt the room press down on him. "Who's in charge now?" Max growled, fury in his eyes, every word wrapped in pain. "Stay down," Heater cried, adrenaline flooding his veins. But his warning fell on deaf ears. Max aimed his weapon at the closest figure. "You think you can take her from me? After everything?" Suddenly, the ground shook as a loud explosion rattled the hospital. Dust fell from the ceiling, coating the air in a grim haze. Shouts of panic cascaded through the crowd. Heitor's pulse thundered, fear clawing at his gut. He caught sight of Leo's father, grinning like a madman amidst the chaos. "This is your doing, isn't it?" Heitor spat, realization dawning. "Just trying to make a point," he replied, eyes flickering like flares. And then amid the blaring sirens and screams, the world tilted on its axis. Sophie stepped forward, cheeks flushed with excitement. "You think you're all smarter than me? You really don't get it." This was never just about the jewels. The air grew still as she drew a small device from her pocket, holding it up like a trophy. "This is a bloodline tracker. Leo is the key." In that instant, everything shattered. Hater's breath hitched. "What?" The figure in the hood stepped back, eyes wide. "You're lying. The syndicate is just the beginning," Sophie interjected sharply, eyes glimmering with malice. "He's the heir to a fortune far greater than you can imagine. A legacy entwined with power." Gasps erupted, and shock rippled through the group. Victoria stumbled back, hands trembling. "What are you saying?" But before Sophie could reply, the armed men lunged, their frenzy spilling into the room. Victoria screamed, the sound piercing through the chaos. Suddenly, Leo's father stepped forward, blocking the path. "You'll have to go through me first," he yelled, his voice booming. But it was too late. A bright flash exploded in the corridor, followed by a cloud of smoke. Everyone was thrown to the ground amid the ripples of chaos. Heitor's heart sank into icy depths as he fought to rise, dazed and disoriented. When the smoke cleared, silence swept over the room. The atmosphere felt electric. Everything and everyone, familiar faces twisted and transformed beneath the weight of revelations. Max, Sophie, the ruthless men. They were all key players in this fierce game, and the stakes had just skyrocketed. As he blinked through the dust, a fragmented vision caught his eye. A woman shadowed in the gloom at the back of the room. Suddenly, in the harsh light, she stepped forward, revealing the unmistakable features of Victoria's mother. Hater felt his heart stop. "No way!" The woman stared, eyes filled with an ancient pain and wisdom. It's time for the truth to come out. Suddenly, everything came crashing down. The frantic world spun in chaos as he realized the moment's gravity. Who was really in control? What did any of them know about loyalty, power, or the cost of survival? He felt the air thicken with tension, uncertainty wrapping around him like chains. And just then, as the reality unfolded, another explosion rocked through the building. Heitor's heart pounded. Danger loomed heavy, and they were all trapped in a web they couldn't escape. There was no turning back now. Heitor's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he watched chaos unfold. Victoria's mother stepped forward, shadows dancing on her face, the tension electric in the air. The armed men shifted, their eyes darting nervously. "We need to get out," Heitor shouted, urgency gripping him. He reached for Victoria, his fingers trembling. He saw fear mirrored in her eyes, a knot forming in his stomach. They couldn't let this moment slip away. Bullets rang out again, echoing like death itself, ricocheting off the walls. Max tried to stand, but a hand held him down. "This isn't over," he growled, a fierce determination flickering in his eyes. Heitor felt a flicker of respect for the man, even while fear swirled around them. "Don't let them take him!" Victoria screamed, her voice raw, cutting through the din. "He's my son!" It filled the room with a protective rage. Heitor squeezed her shoulder, grounding them both. More shouting erupted as confusion consumed the crowd. The guards moved closer, rifles raised, their faces stark and cold. Heitor's body screamed for action. It was either fight or flight, and they had to fight. Victoria turned to the group, hands raising as she breathed deeply. "I won't let you take my son." Her voice echoed through the chaos, each word a desperate plea, yet every syllable dripped with defiance. Heitor felt a surge of hope, a flicker in the darkness. "Together," he said, gripping her hand tightly. They had to withstand this, even if the odds felt insurmountable. But then Sophie's laughter cut through it, sharp and taunting. "You think this is going to end well for you?" She sneered. "You're too late to make a hero out of yourself." The air thickened, and in that moment, Heitor felt something shift. The figures lurking in the shadows stepped forward. Max struggled to his feet, pain etched across his face. But he spoke in a low growl. "You don't get to decide anymore." With a sudden movement, the crowd erupted into a frenzy again. Someone screamed, and chaos broke loose once more. Heitor pulled Victoria close. "Focus," he urged, scanning for an escape route. Leo's father was still there, eyes intense. He lunged toward the chaos. "Don't you dare touch my son." The words filled the room with authority and power. The armed men hesitated, the resistance palpable in the charged air. That split second was all Heitor needed. "Go!" he shouted, pushing Victoria forward, the instinct to protect overriding everything else. They fled through the back door, racing down the sterile hospital corridor. Heitor's lungs burned, but he pushed through, keeping Victoria and Leo close. Sirens wailed outside, the reality crashing down around them. Bursting through the emergency exit, they hit the cool night air, finding themselves outside. Heitor glanced back, dread building. What would become of the chaos left behind? They were free for now, but danger still loomed, dark shadows lingering behind. "We made it!" Victoria whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Heitor could see the relief mixed with fear, hope blending with uncertainty. As they ran towards safety, Heitor couldn't shake the thought of Sophie and the others left in that hospital room. This wouldn't be over. Not yet. He held Victoria's gaze, seeing the woman who had fought through despair to protect her child. "We're going to figure this out," he said, gripping her hand tighter. "I promise." But deep down, he knew the fight was just beginning. The threads of their lives were entwined in danger and secrets, and they were now part of a game they hadn't even understood. That night, as the moon hung high, Hater felt the weight of connection and uncertainty. What if there was no turning back? There were darker paths ahead, and he couldn't help but wonder. How deep did the rabbit hole go? But he wouldn't give in. Not now. And as they disappeared into the shadows, fate awaited them with open arms. Listen, everyone, this is the moment to show your support. If you're enjoying this epic story, you must subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss any upcoming exclusive tales. Smash that like button now. Let's feed the algorithm so more people can join our journey together. Oh, don't wait 1 second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the finale. Your voice matters, and only true fans understand how important this is. Let's keep this community alive.